lines around the world. The Council of Ministers praises in its meeting the outcome of the recent GCC ministerial meeting, patching up differences in the Council. At least 42 children are killed in government airstrikes and shelling across Syria. More than 30 Turkish police officers are detained today on charges of plotting against new President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And clashes resume in Pakistan as protesters briefly seize the state TV station. In our first item, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency President Islam Karimov of the Republic of Uzbekistan on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency President Islam Karimov of the Republic of Uzbekistan on the occasion of his country's National Day. And His Highness Sheikh Jabal Mubarak Al-Hamid Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, also sent a similar cable. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency President Andrzej Kiska of the Republic of Slovakia on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency President Andrzej Kiska of the Republic of Slovakia on the occasion of his country's National Day. And His Highness Sheikh Jabal Mubarak Al-Hamid Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, also sent a similar cable. His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency President Anthony Thomas Carmona of the Republic of Trinidad Tobago on the occasion of his country's National Day. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah sent a cable of congratulations to His Excellency President Anthony Thomas Carmona of the Republic of Trinidad Tobago on the occasion of his country's National Day. And His Highness Sheikh Jabal Mubarak Al-Hamid Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, also sent a similar cable. His Highness the Deputy Emir and Crown Prince Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah received at his Diwan in Sif Palace today Chairman of the Central Tenders Committee Ahmed Khalid Al-Kleib. The Cabinet was briefed in its weekly meeting at Sif Palace today under the chairmanship of His Highness Sheikh Jabal Mubarak Al-Hamid Al-Sabah, the Prime Minister, by the First Deputy Premier and Minister of Foreign Affairs Sheikh Sabah Khalid Al-Hamid Al-Sabah about the GCC Foreign Ministers meeting in Jeddah on Saturday, which resulted in patching up differences and working out the criteria to remove obstacles that may impede the Council march. The meeting also discussed a number of regional, Arab and international issues, especially the situation in Iraq, Syria, the Gaza Strip and Yemen. In a statement after the meeting, the Minister of State for Cabinet Affairs and Acting Minister of Justice, Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah Al-Mubarak Al-Sabah, said the Council of Ministers hailed the good results of the meeting in Jeddah, which once more reflected the tenacity of the Gulf Cooperation Council and the ability of its members to feel the magnitude of their responsibility, prompting them to keep committed to its continuation. The GCC leaders also felt the current threats and challenges which require great solidarity and coherence. He added that this result increased trust and pride in the minds of the GCC citizens. Sheikh Mohammed Abdullah Al-Mubarak Al-Sabah recalled in this context the positive role of His Highness the Emir, who always tries to consolidate the Gulf Brotherhood and unity in order to maintain security and stability of its member states and to confront all challenges and threats to the region. The First Deputy Premier and Minister of Foreign Affairs also spoke about his meeting with the President of the International Committee of the Red Cross, Peter Mawaro, in Geneva, Switzerland, and with the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs in the Swiss Confederation or Federation, Yves Rossier, in the capital, Bern. He pointed out that the subject which was discussed in the two meetings was the possibility of calling an international conference to discuss the conditions of the Palestinians under the Israeli occupation according to the Fourth Geneva Agreement, which is related to the treatment of civilians under occupation. The talks also covered how Switzerland can activate its part to convene such an international conference conference to probe on the Israeli violations of the international law and the Code of the Human Rights. On the other hand, the Deputy Premier and Foreign Minister briefed the Council on the outcome of his meeting with the UN High Commissioner for Refugees Affairs, Antonio Guterres, and the Director of the UN Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, Rashid Kalikov. The meeting was part of coordinating efforts and preparations being made for the honoring of His Highness the Emir Sheikh Sabah Al-Ahmed Al-Jaber Al-Sabah by the United Nations, and which named His Highness as humanitarian leader and described Kuwait as an international humanitarian center. The Minister of Oil, Dr. Ali Saleh Al-Amir, also told the Council that the Environment Indicator for 2014 issued by Yale and Columbia Universities classified the state of Kuwait in the 42 ranks, advancing from rank 126 among 178 countries, owing to the improvement of its environmental performance. Kuwait also came in the 3rd rank among the Arab countries. The Council of Ministers praised the efforts being made by the Environment Public Authority in collaboration with other agencies. The Deputy Premier and Minister of Commerce and Industry and Acting Minister of Education and Higher Education, Dr. Abdel Mahsen Al-Midaj, also briefed the Cabinet meeting on the preparations being made for going back to school as the academic year is about to begin. The Council of Ministers also discussed the political affairs and the current development in the region. Iraqi forces, mainly composed of Kurdish Peshmerga fighters and armed volunteers, have broken through the militants' group siege on the town of Amerli, located between Baghdad and the northern city of Kirkuk. The news came today as fighting with the rebel group continues in Sulayman Bek and Yanakaja towns north of Amerli, killing at least 2 Peshmerga fighters. As of today, Iraqi forces and the armed volunteers have taken control of Amerli a day after entering the town, where at least 12,000 people have been trapped for over 2 months with dwindling food and water. The breakthrough was aided by expanded U.S. airstrikes, which destroyed militants' armed vehicles near Amerli, as well as near Mosul Dam further north, with Adel Al-Bayati, mayor of Amerli, confirming the news. The Syrian Observatory for Human Rights Monitoring Group said at least 42 children were killed in the government airstrikes and shelling across Syria in the last 36 hours. The Britain-based observatory said 25 children had been killed between midnight and on Saturday and Sunday afternoon, with 17 more killed between Friday and Saturday night. Many of the deaths came in raids involving the use of explosive-packed barrel bombs, a weapon that has been criticized by a rights group as indiscriminate. In the capital, Damascus, meanwhile, government planes continued to pound the eastern rebel-held district of Jubar, where the government began a fierce offensive earlier this week to wrest back control. The Palestinian presidency condemned Israel's confiscation of nearly 4,000 dunams of land in the south of the West Bank today, owned by Palestinians. More in the following report with Fatma Abdelkarim from Ramallah.
Authorities have announced the confiscation of 3,811 dunams of land near the illegal Gosh Atzion settlement in Bethlehem and Hebron, south of the West Bank. Israeli media said the confiscation order was taken by the Israeli authorities as a response to the claimed kidnap of 3 Israeli settlers last June near Hebron. However, Palestinians say this is no more than a new Israeli excuse to keep the land grab going.
They want to regain the confidence of the settlers in Netanyahu and his government through enforcing settlements. Secondly, this is a proof that Netanyahu will not stop his crimes against the Palestinian people.
While the Israeli authorities hung the military orders on the lots of lands, the owner started a process to object before Israeli courts and through peaceful demonstrations. The Palestinian president's office said this move will further deteriorate the situation. And Palestinian factions said Israel is doing its best in order to shut down any prospects for peace.
I think this announcement of building these and confiscating this land in the southern part of the West Bank, considered as a war crime, as a continuity of the policy of the Israeli right-wing government to confiscate more land, to uproot the Palestinian people from their own land.
The land confiscation is aimed at expanding the illegal settlement block of Gush Etzion, which is planted on Palestinian lands under heavy protection of the Israeli army. Meanwhile, the Palestinians are pushing through the slim chances of peace over in the international arena. However, with time, Israel is making the chances of success even narrower, especially as Palestinians insist that any peace agreement must not be reached without a full stop in Israel's settlement activity. Fatma Abdel Karim, Kuwait TV, Ramallah, Palestine.
Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif and his accompanying delegation arrived in the Belgian capital city of Brussels early this morning for talks with EU outgoing Foreign Policy Director Baroness Catherine Ashton. Majid Takhti Ravanchi, Deputy Foreign Minister for Europe and American Affairs, and Sayyid Abbas Araghchi, Deputy Foreign Minister for Legal and International Affairs, both high-ranking members of the Iranian nuclear negotiation team, are accompanying Zarif in this trip. Zarif and Ashton are scheduled to evaluate the process of the negotiations and achieve an agreement on a way to further pursue them comprehensively. This meeting will be the first between Zarif and Ashton after the end of the Vienna 6 talks, which was held from July the 2nd till the 19th, in which the two sides, due to not reaching a comprehensive agreement because of differences of opinions such as issues of the extent of uranium enrichment in Iran, extended the negotiation period for a new 4-month period. More than 30 Turkish police officers were detained today in what appears to be the latest in a series of arrests related to the incoming president's belief that members of the nation's police force are conspiring against him. Dozens of Turkish police had already been arrested this summer on charges of bugging new President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's phone lines in order to plot against him. Erdogan, Turkey's former longtime prime minister, won the country's first direct presidential elections on August the 10th. The arrest warrants issued for the 33 police officers in the latest sweep are for seeking to overthrow the government. One of the officers is the former chief of a police financial unit. Pakistan's national television channel is back on air after security forces removed anti-government protesters from its headquarters in Islamabad. Troops were sent in to regain control from demonstrators who had forced their way into the television offices. Earlier, fresh clashes erupted between protesters and police in the capital. Protesters loyal to opposition leader Imran Khan and cleric Tahirul Qadri want Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif to resign, although he denies corruption and electoral fraud. Both Mr. Khan and Mr. Qadri have called for calm and asked their supporters to cooperate with the army. A Russian army tank attacked airfields in eastern Ukraine today amid worsening tensions between Kiev and Moscow. Ukrainian military officials said a battle is underway at the airport of the eastern city of Luhansk. Shortly before the attack, Russia urged the Ukrainian military to retreat from civilian locations in the east, saying pro-Moscow separatists in the region will not disarm for fear of getting killed. The same day, Ukraine said one of its patrol boats was capsized and 2 of its crew are missing off the coast of the city of Mariupol. Officials did not say who was behind the attack. Thailand's military leader and Prime Minister General Prayut Chan-o-cha had unveiled a new interim cabinet in which key ministries will be run by senior military figures. 12 of the 32 member cabinet are active or retired officers of the security forces, including 1 police general occupying many of the most powerful roles in the new administration. Most of the rest of the cabinet are former senior civil servants. Military figures will hold responsibility for the defense, commerce, transport and interior ministries, while civilians will take the economics and finance portfolios. Prayuth was selected by Thailand's National Legislative Assembly to lead the government in a vote last month. He was the sole candidate for the post. And in our final item tonight, Kuwait Stock Exchange ended its trading today on a red board, with the weight index reading 490.31 with a loss of 1.74 points. The KSX price index settled at 7,422, dropping by 8.12 points, and the KSX 15 index reached the level of 1,196, losing 4.07 points. Meanwhile, the number of trades amounted to 5,045 transactions, worth about 20.3 million Kuwaiti dinars, with around 240 million shares changing hands. For a chance to see our reports again, please visit our YouTube channel at MOI Kuwait News. Well, with that, we conclude our news bulletin. Thank you for joining us. Have a pleasant time. I'm Maham Tawa. Before we go, we remind you once again of our main top stories. Have a pleasant time and good night. The Council of Ministers praises in its meeting the outcome of the recent GCC ministerial meeting, patching up differences in the Council. At least 42 children are killed in government airstrikes and shelling across Syria. More than 30 Turkish police officers are detained today on charges of plotting against new President Recep Tayyip Erdogan. And clashes resume in Pakistan as protesters briefly seized the state TV station.